Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. We have a smorgasbord of updates, a cornucopia of content for Clayton Echard in the victory lap that begins this week. Let this week be known as the week Clayton actually gets to speak his truth. I've got a lot to get into in this video, from several subreddits being threatened to be taken down to bombshells. I had a bombshell conversation with somebody that needs to remain anonymous last night. Okay, I'm teasing it right now. I'm not going to discuss the specifics of that conversation. What you have to realize is, in dealing with a litigious Lexi, as we are with Janeth Doeth, any sort of tidbit of information that can come to her from all of these different sources will be used against them, and people don't need to get dragged into that. The best way to get information is to protect your sources, which I am doing at all costs right now. With that said, I will be discussing in the most vague way possible, but I'm going to tell you, you're going to get a good gist of what I'll be discussing on today's Patreon, which we'll have at 11 a.m. I'm a little late this morning. My car got a flat tire. I bought an electric car. I know, you're going woke, Dave. And my wife's car has she's got a Prius. Her battery died on her car, so I couldn't jump her car. We had to wait for a Good Samaritan, shout out to the lovely people in our neighborhood, to get her car jumped before street sweeping, which, by the way, street sweeping is another tax on the middle class. They don't even sweep the streets. They just want to give you tickets. That's neither here nor there. Point being, I'm moving in 5 days. I've got so much going on as far as the move is concerned, but I have to tell you this. It's so important to get these stories out and to keep putting pressure on the gas here, on the acceleration of this case. That's the only way that justice and truth will rise to the surface. The catalyst has to be continued throttling on the accelerator. Clayton Echard's going on Nick Viall's podcast. I'm going to share a clip of that, and then after that clip, I'm going to share with you my God-honest, complete thoughts on the matter, ego aside and ego attached. I'm going to give you both versions. You're going to get ego Dave, and then you're going to get what's good for Clayton, because it's good for him to tell his story. Also, this week, I'm doing 2, if not 3 podcasts that are East Coast. I'm going to be up at 5 a.m. my time to make sure I am there for those podcasts, those live streams, with a combined 600,000 YouTube subscribers. Attached to that, do we need the national anthem music? Attached to those subscribers may also come articles being written. Attached to that are filmmakers, countless, reaching out for this story. Oh, Dave, you're trying to monetize and profit off of it. No. In order to pursue this to its fullest extent, to twist the metaphorical knife here, we need every edge of this country to hear of this story. Because we're not getting confessions. We're not getting people admitting they did the wrong thing. We're getting people doubling down with lawsuits, to the point where people in the community of Jane Doe have asked counsel, what can we do? What can we do to stop this guy? Me. The only guy that's been covering this. Also, shout out to Reality Steve. He's been covering it as well. But now that the story is finished being written, we've got other people like Nick who are finally creating the space and the time. I don't know. He doesn't like to peddle and gossip or anything. So now he's finally creating the space and time to deal with it. Now that the lead block has widened after we've developed CTE from taking all of the hits. You like that football reference? So a lot's going on here. Got a nice comment from somebody saying it was funny comparing Dave and Steve to figure skating partners is one of the funniest mental images I've had. So funny. This is from last week. So there we are, figure skating partners. So I'm going to share with you what Reality Steve had to say regarding the updates, getting an email from Jane Doe and all that jazz. But also, it's not all like victories are coming in different ways, right? A survivor story, I guess, was shared on a website, Dasasmi. I don't know what this website is. They took that down, apparently. They took down her survivor story. Some are wondering if her TEDx talk will be taken down or what else, if it was created with malicious and fraudulent intent, which again, hasn't been proven. It hasn't been proven that her TED talk is full of shit. But what we do know is the Clayton Echard story is full of shit. I mean, just an absolute foie gras of just gross, weaponized bullshit. That's all it is, right, folks? In other news, Justice for Clayton, the Twitter account, said that the court hearings that are sharing the truth are being removed from YouTube. Now, they're being replaced in other places. They're not going away, but she's systematically sniping off one person at a time as she can. What's going to happen when Clayton goes on Nick's podcast, he will get a cease and desist from her. Hopefully at this point he realizes it's bullshit. We would have liked to know that when it happened to us, although it wasn't bullshit because I'm still in the court. But either way, I'm still being sued for harassment here. Hasn't been dropped yet. We'll get a breaking news story when she does drop her case against me. Jane, you're not going to drop your case against me? I'm telling you this right now, Jane. If you force me to fly back to LA after I move my family across the country on February 8th, I am going to eviscerate you with my words. I am going to exercise the most First Amendment right I could ever exercise. I'm going to have a crowd of supporters behind me cheering on my name as we proudly share facts and truth. And really, trust me, you'd rather dismiss your case against me. A part of me wants to say, don't dismiss. Let's take this in front of a judge. Let's bring this into the court system and let's have our little parade in front of the steps at LA Superior Court. Part of me wants that, but at the same time, as I've said before, I'm buying myself some refundable flights from Southwest Airlines just in case you decide to cancel last minute. You won't be getting me on the $200 cancellation fees. Not at all. So anyway, here's Nick Viall. And by the way, the other thing, and I guess this is breaking news for us here, the other breaking news is that there have been cease and desists sent, and again, these are worth literally nothing, but cease and desists are, you remember like in third grade, you'd make paper airplanes? And just shoot them around, they take 2 seconds. That's essentially what ChatGPT Jane Doe is doing as she sort of weaponizes big demonstrable words. Oh boy. Gross misrepresentations. Yuck. Either way, she's going to send them a cease and desist, but now we've got Nick finally stumbling upon the story. Now, look, I don't want to break this to you guys here, and I should be careful with my words, but folks have begged Nick to cover this story when it mattered, a month ago, 2 months ago. At this point, it still matters, and it's not too little too late, but it's just goes to show that while Nick was okay asking Susie Evans what she thought about it, he wasn't okay mentioning his opinion. On a channel I would say is pretty much an opinion channel. So when I say he's spineless, I don't mean that personally. I just mean we're not going to let the history be rewritten that he had a chance to use his platform to help with justice. And that's what social justice is all about, right? Teaming together to rise the truth up. He wasn't willing to do that. He is now. You're not going to get a gold medal from me, but we will be listening.
This Thursday, we have Clayton Echard with us. And for those of you who don't know who Clayton Echard is, he was a former Bachelor a couple years ago and recently has been in the midst of a paternity scandal.
Yeah, I would say that.
He was accused of impregnating a person, and then that person claimed to be pregnant with twins. It is the craziest story. I can't even comprehend it. Clayton is with us for 2 full hours on Thursday, and he comes
with every single detail.
Every single detail from beginning to end. He is incredibly vulnerable.
Receipts. He shows screenshots. It's crazy.
It is a. If you thought,
and don't forget when they had Gabby Windy on, Gabby said when she would have handled this differently. She would have gotten PR people to handle this differently. There was no sticking up for Clayton. In fact, they kind of made him look stupid. on this show. My hope is that Clayton will give them a little bit of his truth, but my guess is here's the more important part. The more important part is that Clayton's story get out there with as many people as possible. And it is no joke how successful Nick's podcast has become. I mean, it trends in the top 50 right now of all podcasts. That's really great. That's good. I mean, for mine, we just dropped out of the top 200 for society and culture, which I'm extremely proud to be where we are as an independent podcast. No producers, just me and you guys. I'm extremely proud. If you want to help our podcast continue to rise in the charts so more people can see it and more people can hear the story, go to Bachelor Rush Hour and hit subscribe and leave us a nice review. But I would be disingenuous if I didn't tell you how big of a podcast Nick's is and how big it is that he's covering it, which is all the more reason he should have covered this 2 months ago. I'm not blaming Nick, but he is part of a larger group. Nick, every alumni that normally covers Bachelor that didn't cover this story, the Bachelor subreddit for not covering it harder and sharing GoFundMes and all of this. They're all part of a group that has led me into the courtroom. They are all part of a group that didn't show up to the battlefield when the story most needed them. And now because of that, we're dealing with the litigious Larry over there, which is fine. That's the ego part of it. If you go, Dave, you're making this about you. That's where it is about me. But at the same time, I will promote this episode. And by the way, Nick's soundboards look fantastic. They've upgraded the soundboards there. Very good, nice looking acoustics. They've got rid of the candle thing, which is nice. So A+ on the audio. If I were them, I would upgrade from these kind of like shitty arm things and get one of these nice alligator ones. These are called Gator Frameworks. It's not a sponsor. Upgrade to these, Nick. They're easier to move. Those are kind of squeaky because it doesn't matter. Anyway, let's finish this off.
You knew that story. You don't know this story. And I wouldn't say it's a true crime story, but it
is.
Definitely not true.
I don't know. It's what
no,
I don't even know.
It's 100% true crime. Natalie said it's definitely not true. It's 100% true crime. It's in the legal system. It's true crime. I mean, the crime that was being committed by Jane Doe was manipulating the truth, gaslighting a man into thinking she was pregnant, and in my guesses was going to use this story for her next TED Talk. This is 100% a true crime story. No question about it.
What you would call it, but
it's bizarre.
It is a bizarre.
It is a bizarre true crime story. Okay, we're good, right? Comment, is this a true crime story or not?
Fascinating story, riddled with potential scandal, and you guys can be the judge. We let Clayton come and share his story, and I had talked with him a few times, and he had shared some information, and he shared some details, and he shared some emails, and finally I thought, this makes sense to give him a chance to share his side of the story, and we let him do it very much unplugged. So
he says, finally it makes sense to share his side. Trust me when I say Nick knew the full story. What are we talking about? Again, don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. Just say you didn't want to get sued, so you didn't cover the story. Boom, done.
So that is this Thursday on the Viall Files on Going Deeper, so look out for that. And just so you know, with Clayton, it's a very heavy topic, so we treated it with the care that it deserved. We're not going to be able to recap any housewives, whether.
All right, I'll be the judge on whether or not they treat it with the care. I think they will. I think it'll be a fine conversation. My guess is Clayton. Here's what's going to annoy me. I will be so annoyed if Clayton has a binder full of graphics and stuff and they don't digitally show that for the audience. I need the audience to see the emails. So it's one thing to read them. You have to see them. You have to see for yourself the manipulation, the fraud, and all of that. Now, again, I don't know. Maybe they've got a different definition of what true crime is, but a crime was committed, and that's why it's in the court system. All right, I'm going to go over to what we had from Reality Steve. He, of course, has been in the front line with me. Reality Steve has been throwing me in the air with his platform gracefully. Here, I didn't want to make Reality Steve the female there because I didn't want him to be insulted. So I took the bullet. The legs look nice. She's got great form here. Triple sow cow. He's kind of got the Shrek pants. I don't know what he's going for. But either way, Reality Steve has solidified himself in the Friends of Dave Neal for life. We really appreciate and respect everything he's done here. He's covered this story pretty much since day one as well.
The first 20 pages are their response to, no. We don't let this go. This woman has been claiming for 6 months she is pregnant, and now she's just saying no longer pregnant. We're just going to drop it. Doesn't work that way. So I had told you that Laura contacted me on email, and I did not read the emails because they're rather wordy and long, and she's, very manipulative in them and always wants to get her agenda across and doesn't address the things that I specifically say, even though she thinks she is. That's the funny part.
Garbage.
But I did want to read one part of one of her emails.
Please.
Because she emailed me, I emailed her back, she emailed me again in response to my email, and then I read you what I wrote her back in my second email, because it was only like 4 sentences long, which was basically, you're a con artist, I'm just leaving it up in the Arizona courts now, you're going to, good luck, you're going to need it. Well, the email before that was her starting off by just saying, your email calls for a clear response, particularly to shed light on the realities you seem to misunderstand or misrepresent. So when
I can't wait for the judge to give Jane Doe a clear response.
I first read that sentence, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's going to actually address the things that I said in my email to her.
Garbage.
Which were basically, in a nutshell, even though it was probably 6 paragraphs long, in a nutshell, it was, Laura, you're not pregnant. You never were. Just admit it. It'll be so much easier for you if you would just admit you're pregnant.
And I've said this. You can go check out all of Reality Steve's conversation there. I've said this. If Jane Doe, and by the way, I don't care if Reality Steve says her name. I'm not saying her name. That's the whole point. I'm not saying her name. You don't have to leave a comment. Oh, we got her name. It doesn't matter. Say her name from the rooftops. I'm not saying her name. I ate a burrito. I don't want to vomit by saying her name. That's what happens. You say the name, you vomit. It's just this weird. Don't sue me for vomiting when I say your name. Anyway, look, I don't, con artist, it's wild. It's wild. And we're going to talk about this for a long time. And we'll take our victory lap. And that's part of the ego of it all. And I've had to, and by the way, with regards to the moderators at the Bachelor subreddit, I have spoken to one at great lengths, and it was very productive. I don't think they took down the post they made about me and all that, but I do hope they understand where the bitterness comes from, because I think they see me as some guy who's just like raking in the money and doing all this and causing all these issues. But truthfully, there were moments where I felt very, very lonely, where I thought I was on a team. That team being people that made content about The Bachelor. I felt like I was on a team. What I realized is a lot of people are out for themselves. No, not Reality Steve, but never got a phone call from Nick. Never got a wellness check. I got a wellness check from She's All Batch. And again, I'm not going to list everybody, because there have been supporters. Absolutely. But what I learned was my peers are not necessarily who I thought they were. And the people that get it are the Reality Steves. The people that get it are the Clayton Echards. So when an article was written about me, when this case was kind of stale and the article was written about me in Medium, you bet your bottom dollar a guy with balls, a guy with loyalty, a guy named Clayton Echard decided to fight for me and get my back. And when it all came down to it, when I really needed it, the people that showed up were the people I'll never forget. And that might sound like, oh, you're making such a big deal out of it. In my world, it is a big deal. What I'm about to share with you on Patreon is going to be semi-vague, but I'm going to drop your jaws voluntarily, if you will give me the consent to drop your jaws. Not your draws, but your jaws, which is, by the way, what got Clayton in this mess to begin with.
Garbage.
Hey, what's going on over there? But either way, I'm going to share some information with you from very solid and close sources. Again, it's not smoking gun stuff, but it's information that leads us to the truth we've been seeking all along. I'll have more of that content for you on the Patreon at 11 a.m. this morning. Now might be the time to pay the $5 for that. It'll be going towards my court fees. Clayton's victory lap begins this week.